You know how they say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life? Well, let me tell you, that wasn't the case for me. Just a day after the I do's, my world got flipped upside down. Picture this. I was still basking in the afterglow of our wedding, thinking life couldn't get any better. But then, out of nowhere, this girl shows up at our door banging like she's auditioning for a drum solo. And she dropped a bombshell that rocked me to my core. Apparently, my husband had been playing a double game, promising this girl the world, even proposing to her, but he never followed through. At first, I was in shock. Like, wait, what? Is this some crazy rom-com or what? But as she spilled the details, it all started to sink in, and I couldn't ignore the truth staring me right in the face. It was like my heart had been sucker punched, and I was left with this mix of anger, hurt, and confusion. How could he do this to me? To us? Was everything we had just a facade? But here's the deal, Reddit. I'm not one to shy away from facing the truth head on. So I'll be laying it all out for you guys, sharing every twist and turn of this roller coaster ride. You guys remember that feeling when you're falling head over heels for someone and you just know they're the one? Well, that's exactly how it was with my now husband. We had been dating for a good 5 years before he finally popped the big question. Yeah, it took him long enough, but hey, better late than never, right? He always had this dream of running his own business, and I gotta admit, I thought that he was a real go-getter. He worked that 9 to 5 grind like a champ, all the while hustling and saving up to turn his dream into reality. I mean, I admired his dedication, but I gotta say, it did stress him out at times. I remember the late nights he spent brainstorming ideas and crunching numbers trying to make his business plan foolproof. And then there were the moments when he'd second guess himself, wondering if he was making the right move. But I was there, right by his side, cheering him on, telling him he's got this. Because when you love someone, you support their dreams no matter what. And I believed in him with all my heart. As the wedding preparations were in full swing, I couldn't bear to see the man I loved so stressed out about his business dreams. It was heartbreaking, really. So I made a decision that I hoped would ease the burden off his shoulders. A month before our big day, I offered him something I held close to my heart, my inheritance. I knew it was a substantial amount and I wanted him to use it to kickstart his dream business. I mean, what better way to invest in our future together, right? Now, here's the thing about inheritance. There are legalities involved and it takes time to sort it all out. So I told him that I'd need a little time before I could transfer the money to him. I wanted to make sure everything was done right, by the book. But he was cool with it, like really understanding. No rush, babe. We're busy with the wedding stuff anyway, and I'll be working after the wedding, so take your time. He reassured me, his smile making my heart skip a beat. With that weight off his shoulders, I saw a different side of him. The one I fell in love with all those years ago. He was relaxed, more at ease, and I couldn't help but feel relieved. We were in this together, and that was all that mattered. So, you know how they say a true friend always has your back? Well, that's exactly what my BFF did when it came to my inheritance idea. She had this nagging feeling, this little voice in her head that said, "Hold up, girl, think this through." And being the amazing friend she is, she didn't hesitate to voice her concerns. She gently suggested I take a step back and rethink the whole inheritance thing. At first, I was a bit defensive, like, hey, I know what I'm doing. It's my decision after all. But she persisted, and I gotta admit, I'm glad she did. She wasn't trying to rain on my parade or anything. She just wanted me to be sure about such a big move. I mean, I can't fault her for that. A true friend always looks out for your best interests. So we had this heart to heart talk, and she listened patiently as I poured out my feelings and reasons for wanting to support my husband's dreams. But she had some valid points too, about being cautious and all. She suggested that we wait until after the wedding to proceed with the inheritance plan. So I agreed, not just for her sake, but also because deep down I knew she had a point. Sometimes when you're so caught up in the excitement of the moment, it's easy to overlook potential risks. Thank God I listened to her, because little did I know things were about to take a surprising turn. Just when I thought we were in for a smooth ride, life threw us a curveball that we didn't see coming. Back to the present day, I confronted him, my heart pounding, trying to make sense of it all. I mean, how could he? How could he betray my trust like that? But you know what he did? He acted all nonchalant, like it was no big deal, claiming that his cheating doesn't count since it happened before we got married. Can you believe that? Well, let me tell you, I wasn't having any of it. I stood my ground and told him that if his cheating doesn't count, then neither does my inheritance offer. Fair's fair, right? I mean, I had promised him my inheritance before we tied the knot, so if his actions before the wedding don't count, then neither do my promises. He tried to guilt trip me, saying he had spoken to a bunch of people about the money and how he'd be ruined if he couldn't keep his promises. But you know what? I wasn't about to let him manipulate me with those mind games. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Because we were never married when I promised you the money, so it doesn't count." And let me tell you, watching his face turn pale was like a moment of victory for me. You see, sometimes life throws these curveballs, and you gotta stand your ground. This was my moment to take charge, to protect myself from any more heartache. I deserved better, and I wasn't about to be played like a fool. He blamed me for ruining his life and begged me to not do this, but I just packed my stuff and left. AITA for this? Update 1. Okay, so picture this. My now not so charming husband has been on this relentless mission to win me back. He's showing up at my doorstep like a persistent salesperson trying to sell me something I definitely don't want. And let me tell you, it's been quite the spectacle. At first, he tried the soft approach, all sweet-talking and manipulating with those puppy dog eyes. "Baby, I messed up, I know, but please give me another chance. I promise I'll change," he'd say, like he's reading lines from some cheesy rom-com. But you know what they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I ain't about to be anyone's fool. No, sir. So I stood my ground firmly but politely, telling him that there's no going back from this mess. Of course, he didn't take it well. Cue the dramatics. He starts raising his voice, yelling and making a whole scene. "You can't do this to me! I love you, damn it!" He'd shout like that's supposed to make everything magically okay. But here's the thing. Love isn't just a word you throw around like confetti. It's about trust, respect, and treating each other with kindness. And he clearly missed the memo on that one, so I shut the door on his little drama show, not falling for any of it. Boy, bye. I'm not falling for empty promises and manipulative tactics. I deserve better, and I'm not settling for anything less. Update 2. As the days pass, he's still trying to reach out, but I've got my guard up. No more falling for the same old tricks. I'm standing tall, knowing my worth, and not letting anyone disrupt my peace. I've got a support system of friends and family who've got my back, cheering me on as I navigate through this storm. And I can tell you, with their love and encouragement, I'm feeling stronger every day. And then I finally did it. I took a stand, gathered all my strength, and applied for that much-needed divorce. Boy, was it liberating. I mean, enough is enough, right? I wasn't about to stay in a toxic relationship pretending everything's peachy when it clearly wasn't. So I mustered up all my courage and took the plunge. Update 3. Guys, you know what? The universe must have been on my side because I was granted alimony. And let me tell you, he's not happy about it, not one bit. He thought he could just waltz through life, treating people like disposable pawns, but karma had other plans for him. Now, I'm not one to resort to public drama, but sometimes you gotta let the world know the truth. So I took to social media and exposed him for who he really is. I spilled the tea, spilled it good, and boy, did it feel satisfying. I'm not saying it was an easy decision, putting my private life out there for the world to see, but you know what? Sometimes speaking your truth is the only way to break free from the chains that bind you. Of course, he's furious. His perfect little facade is shattered, and he's left scrambling to save face. But let me tell you something. I'm not here for the games, the lies, or the manipulation. I'm done with all that. I've got my eye on the prize, a life filled with happiness, authenticity, and freedom, and I won't let anyone stand in the way of that. So if he wants to be mad, let him be mad. It won't change a thing. With the alimony on my side, I can finally breathe a little easier, knowing I have the support I need to start over. It's like a weight lifted off my shoulders, and I'm ready to embrace this new chapter with open arms. NTA, you go, girl. Standing up for yourself and exposing his shady behavior on social media? Iconic. You deserve all the alimony you got and more. Don't let anyone play with your heart and think they can get away with it. Your strength and courage are inspiring, and you're showing the world that you won't back down. Keep shining, queen. NTA, like seriously? You're so not in the wrong here. He cheated and he got what he deserved, a divorce and alimony. It's not even about revenge or anything, it's about getting what's rightfully yours and exposing him on social media. That's the way to handle it in the digital age. You're taking control of your narrative and not letting anyone silence you. Keep being a boss, babe, and remember, you deserve all the happiness in the world. Next story. My brother is a widower twice over, with kids from both marriages. His first wife died when their children were 8 and 7, and his second wife died over a year ago, and those kids are now late teens to early 20s. My brother remarried within a year for the first time. His kids had a hard time with that, and he told them that remarrying was a sign that he loved their mom so much that he wanted to have that again, and that she taught him how. This second time, he has declared he will not date or remarry again because he found his soulmate and cannot imagine life with another woman. As you can imagine, his older 2 kids were not happy to hear that. They called him out on what he was saying, and he told them they needed to understand. They told him they knew he was a liar, and that his whole thing about loving their mom so much was bullshit. His kids from the second marriage were mad that their siblings wanted him to remarry and weren't happy that their mom was the more important wife. Now, his older kids aren't talking to him. The younger kids don't want to talk to the older ones, and he's acting like he has no idea how his words could be causing this. He confided in me, his younger sister, and I reminded him of a time years ago when our dad talked about our brother, the firstborn in our family, as the kid he enjoyed the most. My brother never got over it and said nothing Dad could say or explain would change that. Dad died and the two had not reconciled. I told him he needed to understand that words have consequences like actions do, and telling everyone that his second wife was so special to him that he does not want to find another because she was his soulmate is going to hurt the kids from his first wife, since he moved on into a second marriage so fast after her, and even told his kids no slowing down and to see it as him loving their mom. He told me it shouldn't bother them as adults. I told him they love their mom, and want to believe she wasn't less important to him than his second wife. He told me I was making it seem like being honest about his marriage to his wife was the same as our dad choosing a favorite kid and how I'm an a-hole for that. AITA? Wow, he really thinks he's the main character and the only one with problems. He seems to think he can do no wrong, and if he does, everyone else is just overreacting. What a tool. NTA, obviously. It is high time someone took him off his high horse. NTA. Just as a heads up for anyone who might not know, the speech-action dichotomy is fictional. There aren't actions and speech, and never the twain shall meet. Speech is an action, and so naturally there are consequences for speech. There is a distinction between saying something and doing the thing you're speaking about, but both are actions. Your brother said what he said out loud to the world, and the people there took it to heart and are reacting to it. What more is there to say? You reap what you sow. The only thing you did was explain, using his own life story, why his belief that people must take his words with the placid grace of a monk is bullshit and obviously wrong. All you did was hold a mirror up to his hypocrisy. Next story. So I just got married and I've been planning this wedding for almost 2 years. I wanted it to be perfect. My brother was the best man. My sisters were bridesmaids and my brother had been with his girlfriend for a while. She still hasn't warmed up to me. And frankly, it seems like she doesn't like me. But I invited her as a guest. After the ceremony, I specifically wanted the bridesmaids, MOH, best man, and groomsmen to be seated with my husband and I, at least until the photographers were done catching candid shots. My brother went to pull up a chair for his girlfriend, and I asked him not to. We needed to keep the colors matching and numbers even for the photos. His girlfriend looked offended, so I told her it'd only take a few minutes and then she could join us. But right now, she just needed to stay out of the shots. My brother talked to her a little before she walked to the back tables, which she didn't have to do. She could have sat closer. My brother looked irritated, which made me slightly irritated because I didn't want him to look unhappy in the pictures. So I said he could at least pretend to look happy. I don't know why that sent him, but it did. He went off about her being shy and already feeling unwelcome in the family, and I'm not making it easy for her. I told him it didn't seem like she was happy to be here anyway. She didn't seem like she wanted to be part of this family at all, and frankly, I didn't want her unhappy expression to be permanently displayed in pictures of what's supposed to be a happy occasion. Then he stormed off and sits with her. I was pissed. This was supposed to be my dad. It wasn't about her. Made the seating at the table uneven in the pictures anyway, but they still turned out okay. My brother isn't talking to me, even though I apologized and offered to apologize to his girlfriend. Some things I said out of anger, but also feel like I should have been granted some respect, and they should know how important it was to me since they knew I'd been planning this day for so long. The rest of our family and friends at the table just told me it was awkward and don't want to pick sides. So AITA? Edit. All partners were aware and perfectly fine with waiting for pictures to be done. After the more formal, candid shots were done, everyone was free to go where they wanted. Actually, candid shots were going to be taken when everybody let loose and started having fun, and everyone was able to get pictures taken with friends, partners, and family. The staged, candid shots were specifically to be framed and put up in our house, so I preferred only the people involved in the wedding to be in those. Everything else would be put in an album and also shared with friends and family who might want to print theirs out. My brother and his girlfriend are still in many of the pictures. For the record, I don't think she was actively trying to get in the shot or mess anything up. Edit 2. My brother and his girlfriend have been together for around a year. Further info in my comment responding to this question. And for anyone confused by the staged candid photos, I understand it sounds pretentious, But it's not easy taking actual candid shots of 10 people without at least one person looking like they're in the middle of a sneeze or something. I was originally going to say YTA because I thought that you weren't allowing his date to sit with him for the whole meal, but just for some additional bridal party pictures. I think that's entirely appropriate. Your brother and his girlfriend were out of line. NTA. NTA, it's basic etiquette for only the wedding party to sit at the head table, and you were reasonable enough to allow her to sit after the pictures were taken. Sorry your brother and his girlfriend took this so personally. Edit. Correction. I guess it's not that common about the wedding party being at the head table, but brother and girlfriend should have respected how OP wanted the pictures, which is common. And OP made it clear it was only for the pictures. Totally ridiculous that they couldn't wait a few minutes. NTA, it's common knowledge that just the wedding party sits at the main table. You offered to let her sit up there once photos were done. So it's not like you barred your brother from spending any time with his girlfriend for the whole event. And he should have considered that this is one day, one event centered around you and your husband's wants and needs, and he could stand to take a back seat for a little bit. Next story. My wife's parents moved in with us last year. We'd see maybe 2 to 3 spiders a year, and that was it. Now, after they've moved in, to hear them talk, you'd think my house was in the middle of Mirkwood. It all started this past summer when my in-laws came in from my screened-in back porch and went on about seeing a black widow outside the screen. I got out there with jars in hand to put said black widow in my spider relocation program. It was an orb weaver. 2 more times during the summer they saw an orb weaver on the porch or in the tool shed and came to get me saying they saw a black widow. My husband started to do the same thing. I told him what a black widow looks like and that they're rarely, if ever, seen in our area. Now that it's winter, there have been more spiders on the back porch because, poor things, they want to be warm too. 1 or 2 got into the house. My mother-in-law has handed me a bag before and told me to be careful because she saw a black widow jump in it. It was a wolf spider. Last week, my father-in-law and wife asked me to get rid of the black widow under the sink. Another wolf spider. I've been pretty fed up with all the false calls and dealing with the occasional outdoor spider and them acting like it's life or death. None of them are arachnophobic, so I printed out 2 sheets of paper. One had pics of the 3 most common spiders to see around here, and I put, if it looks like this, just let it chill. Do not call Spidercus. The second sheet I put next to it had a blown-up image of a black widow, and I highlighted features and captioning. This is what a black widow looks like. You may proceed to call Spidercus. I put all over the back porch and tool shed, some in the closet and under the sink. My wife was not impressed and took them all down. My wife got mad that I was insulting their intelligence and belittling her parents. I just wanted them to stop getting me for every spider sighting that wasn't a danger, and since they never listened to descriptions, I tried a different approach. AITI read it? NTA, but honestly, they might be a lost cause. I'm in Texas where every snake is either a cottonmouth or a rattlesnake, and the average yokel won't be convinced otherwise. Eventually, you realize it's more about the people misidentifying the animal, feeling special, than it is about genuinely not knowing. If they cared to know, they'd ask how to identify spiders the first time you corrected them. LOL. NTA, wolf spiders and orb weavers look nothing like black widows. You tried to explain, but they did not listen and continued to call you for every spider they saw, claiming it was deadly. None are arachnophobic, so why do they insist on calling you every time? An education campaign was clearly needed. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.